Hi, everyone. Welcome to Psychic Connection, Collaboration over Competition. And today I have the pleasure and honor of interviewing Iris. Hello, Iris.
Hi, Phyllis.
Nice to see you.
Same.
Yes. So I always love to jump right in, so I will. So, our first question for you is that you are a seeker of knowledge. And, I was very impressed. You started out as a social worker and you have a bachelor's and a master's degree in that. Now, why do you think you were drawn to that field in particular?
I was a product of the 50s. I was a 50s baby, and anyone born in that generation knows that for women, it was a nurse, a social worker, or a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that, we were railroaded. It was just a collective dream that that's all we got. So it's
Mm-hmm.
still pretty rare to move into other fields. And plus, when you want to serve, you find a way. And
Yeah,
social work served me well for a little while.
yeah, for a little while. But then at what point in your life did you realize that you were intuitive?
That came a lot later. My might sound a little strange, but when people say to me, "How did you become an intuitive?"
Mm.
My standard issue is that it was suffered out of me when the cauldron of suffering sort of hammered away almost everything, and what was left is this. So
Wow.
suffering has a place. So I don't want it to have a place much longer in anybody's reality, but it definitely had a place for me. It cleared away so much and left me with a gift.
Wow. So that's how you realized that you had it.
But it was much later in life. It was,
But
it
much
was
later in life.
I'd
Yeah, like
say,
much later in life, I realized mine too, as well. So we have that in
okay,
common.
which is really it's people can trust us
Mhm.
because we are blossoming later.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So now, do you see similarities in both of your professions? The social work and then the intuitive. Can you explain that a little bit? Do you see that?
The fundamental similarity is a, a deep desire not to see people suffer or
Mm-hmm.
to approach suffering from a kind, compassionate way. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what the backdrop is for both. The biggest backdrop. Um, there's a lot of divergent issues from there between the two, but the bottom line is that kindness seeks a way to express itself to humanity in service.
Yeah, very true. Being in service, yeah, and kindness and compassion. Yeah, use it in both, right? Yeah, yeah. Very true. Agreed. So, you relayed that you were instructed by your higher self and two deceased teachers who continue to be mentors for you. Now, how does your higher self help you, and how do your deceased mentors give you guidance?
It seems it seems to be that uh, because I'm here to try to embody soul, to
Mm-hmm.
become soul, to create a body that permits soul to be the head honcho,
Mm-hmm.
that the soul or the higher self is on with the sessions. As I remove the personality um, and make way for the soul
Mm-hmm.
just is the session. The soul orchestrates, the soul is embodied. Um, if I can surrender enough, the soul just does the job. I don't know if I answered that very well.
Oh, okay. So you're saying it's more your soul that allows you to have your abilities and taught you.
And also is me.
And well, yeah, your soul is right. Is
Yeah. So what I meant by when I can't remember the question right now, but it's more like I strive to have an identity as an embodied spiritual being, and I've noticed that when with that kind of craving or calling or longing permits the soul to come in and establish a reality as the human. So it's fun that way because I trust the sessions deeply because it isn't the personality known as Iris just doing her thing. It's the soul
The solar virus, right.
my experience. I hope I'm becoming more clear about that as I get older, but that seems to be what's happening.
Okay, so your soul has taught you, but you do talk about two deceased teachers that
Yeah.
you feel are mentors
Yes.
that are also helping
Yes.
you, teaching you. So I guess, how do
How?
you connect with them, and
Yeah.
how exactly do they help
Yeah.
you?
They come
Because
in
you
for training. When I transitioned um, from more from working with animals to the human population,
Mhm,
um, the two mentors made their way to my world, and for about a year in meditations trained me in the ways, and a lot of it was just physical plane. How do I compose myself? How do I hold myself? How do I permit a graduating field where more and more of me knows what it's doing? And there's, because I didn't go to school for any of that, there had to be a training somehow. And my soul just seemed to think that that was the best way to do it. So these two beings,
right.
and then in addition with my own mentor, who's now, as a matter of fact, it's her birthday today, Sister
Oh,
Barb. Um, she's a third one, and when there's a need to do some extracurricular training,
mhm.
it's just known. I just know that I've got to go in for a while in the morning and start to pay attention to whatever's being taught.
Being taught. Wow.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. So, yeah, you really relied on your soul, on connecting through meditation, very much self-taught, you
It
know.
seems to be the way it's given in this life. And I don't exactly know why. Well, I have a clue. Um, I think it's part of the conditioning that I had as a very poor girl and then married into poverty. So I think some of that was just there
Mhm.
wasn't the money available
Right.
that I could gather together to do the kind of training I wanted to do. So the
Okay.
universe just said, well, we can take care of that. And then the meditation started up. So it was very
I love
nice of the universe.
I love that perspective. Wow, I wouldn't have
Thank
thought
you.
about that, but yeah, that really makes a lot of sense, and I love that, yeah, perspective. Now, you mentioned that, did you start with animals first? So what exactly did you do with animals and then moved on to humans?
I began to, like many people, I began to notice, um, I'm losing my word, an empathy
Mhm.
with the animal populations.
Okay.
Started out with cats and dogs, it went on to horses.
Right.
And because I was so curious about a language that was nonverbal, I
Right.
just went deep. I went deeper. I began to listen. I began to sit. I began to ask. And then little by little, the population started coming to me to train me again. It was more of a training. Uh,
Hmm.
and there were times when some hands-on would be helpful, but I'm not trained with hands-on at all. It's just love in motion. Love finds a way to uh, be equal with whoever we're with. And the
Yeah,
animals saw me as not being in a hierarchy with them. They saw me as an equal.
as an equal. Were you able to communicate with them almost like telepathically, or?
That's one of the skills, this telepathy.
Mm.
Sometimes the language is, instead of the clairs, I just call it feeling, hearing, seeing, knowing,
Right. Mm.
and those are all just fun, and I love them so much because they balance out the left brain that seems to be conditioned to do everything.
Oh,
It just didn't
definitely.
get them. I'm sorry.
So if someone's having an issue with their pet and they just can't figure out what's wrong, would they go to you and say, "Gee, can you maybe tap in or communicate with my pet so I know how I can help my pet? It's very upsetting to me.
Yes,
What can I do to help them?"
yes, and yes, I can, and I do. Uh,
Hmm.
Sometimes there's a what I've noticed is that a lot of what I do is engage the pet's human in a dialogue, because it as I dialogue with people,
Mhm.
that the field opens up and makes it more easy to read what's going on with the animal. And
Mhm.
I couldn't understand that for the life of me, but that's the way I go about it. I talk with the human, and before I talk with any animal, and it relieves the human. It makes them feel like they're engaged, which they are,
Right.
and then it deepens the communication with the animal.
That's amazing. That's really,
No
yeah.
more amazing than you, Phyllis.
No, no, but I find it like very amazing. I just find it fascinating. And I think, there are a lot of people who their pets are, like their children, and they so desperately want to help them. And that, be wonderful if they, could contact you and you could help them with that. Like you said, have a dialogue and then tune in more to what's the issue with their pet. Oh, love that.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, really love that. So now, one service you provide is a spiritual intuitive session. Now, your process seems quite in depth, though. So, can you elaborate on what you do exactly?
All of the services that I am given to offer the earth seem to be the same process. It seems, and it's just so hard to talk about this because it's not that left brain. The only left brain function is to have the mind try to step back or find a language to determine what's going on. I ask the mind to help me that way. But more and more, I've discovered that we enter the quantum realm together.
Mhm.
And I call it, this is going to sound silly, I call it pinning down God's blanket. I just pin down the realm that I call God, and then we walk in and we begin to communicate with each other. And what I found is that the deeper we go in communication, the deeper the soul has permission to add information if it needs to do behind the scenes healing if it needs to permit an inner child to show up if the child needs to.
Mhm.
Often the soul doesn't have to do anything because the field permits the client, the other human, to begin to act as if she were 5 or 10 years old. I'm
Oh,
not laughing at the person. I'm laughing at the amazing life that we live. Often a child who is desperate to get some help will talk its human into having a session. And then because it's safe with me because I understand inner children really well.
right.
And then the minute the adult starts talking in a safe field, a safe environment, the child begins to rise up. And then pretty soon, often the child will take over the psyche. And then pretty soon I've got a little kid, having a session with me. And often it's really disconcerting to the human, but it happens a lot because the child has needs. And it's
Right.
not that safe of a world for it to enter until it finds a safe environment. And then we do inner child healing sometimes. Sometimes people want to understand their records, and so we'll explore the Akashic, whatever the need is. I just follow people around.
Right. Yeah, what's needed. Do they ever change their voice so it almost sounds like an actual child?
There's a lot of inflection shifting, a
Hmm.
lot of facial shifting, a
Right.
lot of posture shifting.
Hmm.
It's this if these children are alive, they're not a figment of our imagination. If they've been traumatized or if they've got gifts and the gifts weren't received, they
Right.
take everything with them and then they just go into a little frozen tundra until they can't stand it anymore, and then they look for a way to come out.
Hmm. Wow.
And they're alive when they show up.
Wow, very, very fascinating. Yeah, this is all new to me, so I appreciate you explaining it. Yeah, very, very interesting.
Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah,
even wanting to know.
yeah, definitely. And I think the viewers definitely, and people who are listening in will find it fascinating as well. Yeah. Okay, so another service that you do offer is astrological consultations, and you ask for the exact time, place, and date of birth. Can you tell us what the significance of that is? And does it entail, like, do you actually create an astrological chart?
I run a number of charts based on the exact time of birth.
Mhm.
And astrology is such a marriage between metaphysics and science
Mhm.
that I just love it because the people that need a science-based modality get that. But it still
Mhm.
permits me to be an intuitive and read from the soul's journey at the time of birth. It's
Hmm.
it's It was my very first love at the age of 18, my very
Oh,
first. And I just fell so deeply, utterly in love with it that I've been a student ever since. So I don't consider myself accomplished. I just finally started offering readings because nobody else was doing it near me. And
mhm.
people would often hear me talk about astrology and then get excited and then they wanted it. So
Right.
now I do offer I offer it to people that know me well enough that they know I'm not a very standard issue astrologer. I am a spiritual astrologer, and
Spiritual astrology.
it's just quite wonderful. I love that service. I don't do the math on the charts because it would take me forever. I'm way too slow, but
Mhm.
I do run charts. I prepare charts, and I synthesize charts for reading. Yeah.
Well, I think people should try it out because that, you know, it could say, you know, so much about their lives, right?
At
And
times,
how
at
everything
times, and
aligns.
it defines processes that we can't for the life of us understand what's going on.
Right.
Why do I always run around hoping I want to find a mother? Why
Mhm.
do I do the same thing in my relationships? How do I undo all that? The chart
Right.
can be read for the significance of the time of birth and why we chose to have the challenges that we do.
Hmm. Once again, very, very fascinating. Hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah. So now you created a new service in 2020 called Original Design, but you also call it Soulscaping and Emergence Mapping. So, you know, why do you feel that you were drawn to it at that particular time? And was it related to the pandemic?
I don't know if the emergence of that service was timed with the pandemic. For a
Mhm.
number of years, I still feel this way. I don't quite know how to manifest yet, but I feel like this service is the for me the cutting edge of manifestation of something extraordinary.
Mhm.
So about 3 years ago, I began to know that it would be possible to entrain spiritual presence on another person's field. I know I'm not saying that right. I think I'm missing a word here. Let me try that again. I like to place spiritual presence on a person's presence, presence upon presence, my spiritual presence on their presence.
Present. Mhm.
It seems to light up areas of the DNA that either came in darkened or have remained darkened over time because they have not gotten the result, the codes necessary to light up the skills that we came in to have.
Hmm.
So what I'm still not saying this very well, but that's okay. What I'm noticing is that placing spiritual presence on a person lights up over time, and in divine timing, the DNA codes that are waiting in the wings to become part of this consciousness field.
Mhm.
And it's either very low key, the session, or it's noticeable immediately. This session is surely not for everyone because
Right.
it's not like firecrackers going off, but
Right.
it is trusting that someone else's spiritual terrain deeply wants the awakening of another person to take place, which I
Mhm.
am.
Right.
I'm a fundamental cheerleader of everybody's spiritual awakening. So I take that facet of me and train it on another person. And from that point, the Godhead takes over and identifies the places in the DNA codons that are ready to map, that are ready to come aboard.
I'm on board. Wow.
I've never exactly tried to explain that in an interview, which is why I might have sounded all over the place, but that was okay. I felt okay about what I said.
No, I thought you explained it well
Try
because
to
I
anyway,
listened very intently
obviously.
and it did make a lot of sense. Yeah, it really did. Thank you for that. So wow, you offer a lot of really fascinating, interesting, very deep services. So what would be the best way for someone to contact you?
The website is one long phrase, the light and dark of day.com. And
Mhm.
I have a YouTube channel. If you look,
Oh,
I'm trying to have a YouTube channel.
mhm.
I'm just like this.
Yes.
It's a little slow, a little reflective, a little contemplative.
Mhm.
It's the YouTube channel can be probably found in YouTube under Iris Kristanovich.
Okay, so if they want to find you, they can also find you on the YouTube channel too. But if they wanted to contact you about maybe scheduling a session,
Yes,
the website is a good place to go, right?
yes. And then I have a page on quantumhealers.com,
Oh, quantumhealers.com as
which is
well.
the BQH, the Beyond Quantum Healing Professional Forum. So I can be found.
Oh,
Some people just
a
Google
couple
Iris
ways to find you.
Madison.
Yeah. Now, speaking of that, I found you. We connected through New Earth Community Connections in Manasquan. That's where
Yes.
we meet. So now you also offer classes there. So can you tell us a little bit about some of the classes that you offer at New Earth?
They're fondly called the Wednesday gatherings. It started out where a number of years ago, I co-facilitated with Jen Kelder an ascension gathering or an awakening support group. And
Mhm.
that's still going strong, I think, after 7 years. And
Great.
then I determined that there was a need for more Aquarian type gatherings that permitted people to register what it even means to be in the Aquarian age, because we
Mhm.
don't have a register for that. We've been living in Piscean stories for a very long time. So I just started doing Wednesday gatherings, and there's every Wednesday. The first Wednesday is my favorite. It's
Mhm.
called Restoration, and it's why I'm on the planet
Mhm.
as a way of restoring paradise, restoring Eden, restoring a place where we belong and we can create harmony.
Right.
Everybody belongs, everybody matters, everybody has a place. And so
Mhm.
it's interesting. I just got a little bit of there must be somebody around me because I just felt someone caress the top of my head. It was just very sweet, Phyllis. I don't know
Oh,
who it is because I'm not going to take time to find out, but it
yeah.
was just very nice. So there's something about restoration that was important that I say what I just said. It's
Yeah.
happening again. It's really wild.
Wow. I think maybe they want people to attend, your restoration
It's
class because I think maybe a lot of people can benefit from it.
everybody, everybody came in with a facet of Eden, everybody.
Mhm.
And when
Right.
we find out what it feels like to be re-immersed in a higher dimensional frequency, we want
Mhm.
that really bad. So
Yeah.
I do a Wednesday gathering every Wednesday. The second one is astrological. The third one is the Ascension gathering. And the fourth one is just called Wednesday gathering, because it permits the community to continue being with each other on Wednesdays. I
Oh,
find that
that's
it's very,
nice.
very sweet
Yeah. And I guess they form like a real camaraderie, with one another.
and very welcoming.
Mhm.
People they come and they go. Sometimes they're gone for 6 months or a year.
Mhm.
Sometimes people are just joining now, and
Right.
it's a very welcoming environment because I insist on it.
Right.
I need welcoming.
Right. Wonderful. Yeah. I think we should have more of that atmosphere in many places, right, where people
No
feel very
kidding.
welcome. Yeah. So I ask all of my guests, what advice would you give to someone who wants to explore or expand their intuition?
When you find the craving and longing to be intuitive, overpowering and overwhelming,
Mhm.
it means that you're already crossing that bridge. You don't
Mhm.
have to worry about discovering it. It's coming organically and naturally through the synchronistic field. The field will begin to drop pearls
Mhm.
at your feet, going, go here, go there.
Go
And then you
there,
just
right?
follow the clues.
So follow.
It creates passion. It's even better.
Mhm. Yeah. So go toward what you feel you're drawn to. Yeah. Well, that was good advice, definitely. So Iris, we do have two questions that we've gotten from viewers. So the first question is from Suzanne, and Suzanne would like to know, do you feel your intuition is becoming stronger with time, and does it help you recognize things that, or maybe, are they coming in even faster?
That's a great question, Suzanne. Thank you, whoever you are.
Yeah.
I want to absolutely underscore this, that in my reality, the awakening process puts all of our gifts on steroids. So I don't say that I'm becoming more intuitive. I share that I'm becoming an awakening fifth dimensional and higher being,
Mhm.
and that just elevates everything. So yes, yes.
Yeah, so yes. Wow.
What was the second half of that, Phyllis?
Yeah. And she asked, does it help you recognize things are coming in faster?
Yeah, because the intuition is almost like synapse work. It
Mhm.
you just cross over that synapse, and then you're
Mhm.
in the quantum field where all the probabilities lie. So absolutely, yes. It does
Right.
seem to be moving quickly, but then time is collapsing also, right? So
Yeah,
as time
that's true.
collapses, we don't know what's first or what's second. It just is.
It just is. Mhm. Yeah, very true. Well, thank you for answering that question. And our last question, our second question, is from Roberta. And Roberta would like to know, do you have advice for us about the pandemic, how to handle the effects?
Wow, what a question. I just
Mhm.
did a YouTube this morning on the byproduct of loneliness with
Mm.
respect to the pandemic. So, Roberta, it's really interesting that you would ask that question.
Mhm.
I think I need to take a breath here because my soul wants me to answer that with respect and clarity.
Okay.
So, if you'll just give me a moment,
Oh, sure.
sorry to do this to you.
No, 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 not at all. Take your time. Take your time.
It's such a beautiful, perfect question. Okay, this is what wants to be said, that it would be really possibly helpful to consider reframing everything we think is true with the left brain
Mhm.
about the impact of the pandemic,
Mhm.
that every aspect of it is possibly reframed to elevate a living field that we are growing into, not in spite of the pandemic, but because of it.
Mm.
It seems to be offering us every possibility or probability that we crave in a way that life could not offer us until the pandemic hit. Because I think when we were born, we immediately forgot what we remembered. And
Mhm.
then we went under, I call it a trance state or a drugged induced coma of being a 3D human. And we could not easily come out of it without something so significant that
Mhm.
it created an isolating frequency that then became um, a cauldron or a container for our
Mhm.
evolution. So I see that as a very beautiful thing, very
Mhm.
painful and very beautiful, horrible and beautiful both. These are really beautiful questions. I'm
Yeah.
so honored
Yeah.
to be asked them.
Oh, well, we're honored that you're answering them so eloquently and with so much knowledge and passion as well. So really appreciate that. But I am sorry that our time is up. So I would just like to repeat your website once again, because anyone, watching or listening can contact you, please, because I feel you have so many wonderful things to offer people. And
Thank you.
it's www.thelightanddarkofday.com.
Yes.
So thank you again, Iris. It was truly a pleasure. Thank you, viewers, and thank you, listeners. And if any of you have questions you would like to send in for our guests that are coming up, please send them to www.readingsbyphyllis.com, and hopefully your question will be chosen to be answered. So everyone, thank you. Thank you again, Iris. Listeners, viewers, thank you. And everyone, God bless and take care.